Daily Mail now. I apologise for trying to jump ahead to this story, but it's the latest on the notorious decapitate TERF sign at the Scottish Trans rally. You're off with her head. Indeed.
Nicola Sturgeon condemns decapitate TERFs placard seen near SNP politicians at Glasgow pro-trans rights rally as First Minister calls on UK ministers to have the guts to appear before Holyrood committee over Westminster's block on her gender reforms. Part life.
Yeah. I mean, genuinely, who would have guessed, whenever Blair it was who sort of started the devolution process, that this would be the issue on which we would finally come apart?
It's insane, isn't it?
It's extraordinary.
But this is
all the things that England and Scotland have held dear and differently over the years.
So these placards that were at this rally in Glasgow, and there are a bunch of SNP MPs there, and behind them are just these very violent calls to violence towards TERFs, or what they call TERFs, but basically women's trans exclusionary radical feminists, but essentially women standing up for women's rights, mostly. So now they're all turning around going, oh no, I didn't see that. It's like, all of them are like, I didn't see that.
Well, they're not turning around, that's the problem.
But they all saw it, and there are photos of these signs before they got there, so there's no way they didn't see it.
And they look increasingly gleeful and I don't know, they seem to be crazed themselves in their own faces.
But this is what got me into the whole argument years ago, to see the calls to violence towards women, the bullying that comes from, rather than just having a debate, there was a debate last night on Free Speech Nation on this channel, which was an amicable debate between people arguing about their rights. That's what it should have been years ago, instead of this instant call for violence. And because no one called it out before now, this has been allowed to fester and they think it's normal. And by the way, you also had Labour MPs at a rally or a demonstration in front of Westminster last week, and they were on standing on a platform with someone who's been to jail like a trans woman who has been in jail for torturing their stepmother's brother or something like that, and then they're all claiming, oh, we didn't know who that is. So this is like a common theme, is like, oh no, we didn't know. Well, you're happy enough to stand up there, and maybe you should actually do some more reading into this issue.
It does seem that there are like two distinct breeds, and I think a lot of the pre-existing trans women and trans men, presumably as well, who are just trying to lead quiet lives and not attract any unnecessary attention to themselves, seem to have been weaponised by an even tinier fraction of society who just absolutely want to kick off.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's only 0.5% of trans and non-binary people, so it can't be them. Yeah, and this is Matt Sturgeon said things like, I don't think it's fair or credible to suggest that the elected representatives who were there in any way share or condone those views. It totally is, though, isn't it? I mean, and she says that the way those views were expressed, she would condemn the way those views were expressed. I mean, how can you express these views in a good way? I mean, the thing about Sturgeon, people wonder if it's just a political football because she wants to get independence and she's using, for example, the gender recognition bill. But as far as my research, she actually does genuinely believe that she's bought into this idea. It's this progressive idea, which is mad. But
even though it's not actually very popular in Scotland either, is it?
No, it's radically unpopular. It's crazy. All the polls show it's very unpopular, so it's absolutely mad. But there can only really be one winner, can't there? Because the so-called TERFs versus the trans rights activists, it can't be... There's no compromise, really, is there?
Well, I think that people get so embedded within this issue, and as someone who plays, am I going to be a hypocrite here because I'm so embedded in it? Is there any way for me to? I try and see the other points of view, but I'm not going to agree that there are more than two sexes.
If we want to get to that point, what will happen eventually? I assume the best solution will be something similar to the Good Friday Agreement, which is essentially a fudge which allows both sides to believe that they've won. But the only way you can do that is by taking all the heat out of the situation and having everyone settle down and pretend to look the other way a little bit.
You might have to look the other way in a changing room, because how can the changing room possibly
or women's sports, women's prisons? These are lines in the sand.
Third places, I guess.